In a brief introduction to a section in the anthology Evergreen, 6 New Poets, Andy Weaver wrote, "I'm not certain that I write anymore. It feels more like I just cobble together lines that I've put down in the little book that I keep in my right pocket, which feels better in a weird way than when I was naive enough to believe all that crap about inspiration and genius and whatnot. To misquote Frost, which is fine because he's dead, one could do worse than be a cobbler of words." This is a sentiment shared by the late John Newlove, who kept found lines on organized stacks of blue file cards for him to later include in his own poems, even going so far as to write about that theft between stolen lines in a poem, White Philharmonic Novels. "Look, nobody gets wise writing. Now I must be making pretty manners at you. It's necessary to realize that all these phrases are stolen. The arrangement is all." Some of us waited years for a first collection from Andy Weaver to appear, finally published by Edmonton's New West Press in spring 2005, the collection Were the Bees. A former editor at the Fiddlehead and founder of both Fredericton's QWERTY magazine and Edmonton's Olive chapbook and reading series, there were a few years when I considered Andy Weaver to be the best poet in Canada without a trade book. Weaver's poems are almost a bridge between the prairie horizons of Robert Crouch, the more traditional metaphor-driven lyric pastoral of Don Mackay and Jan Zwicky, and the explorations of the avant-garde. His poems explore the Ghazal influenced by Canadian models John Thompson, Phyllis Webb, and Doug Barber, as well as Barber's breathline, the metaphysical threads of San Francisco Renaissance poet Robert Duncan, and the pastiche of how seemingly arbitrary lines collide, much like, for example, Lisa Robertson's The Weather. Before hearing him read from his Were the Bees sequence in Edmonton in spring 2004, I had considered his poem's 3 Ghazals to the constellation Corvus, the Crow, to be his strongest work. Since East Coast resident John Thompson's posthumous collection Stiltjack appeared, bringing the Ghazal, an ancient Persian form, into Canadian poetry, the prominence of the form later exploded through the publication of Phyllis Webb's Sunday Water, 13 Anti-Ghazals, Doug Barber's more recent Breathtakes, and younger poets such as Eric Folsom, Rob Winger, Catherine Owen, and Weaver, unlike so many others, bringing new life to the form. In Weaver's 3 Ghazals to the constellation Corvus, the Crow, every couplet is punctuated, clipped with a wry, ironic sense, tongue planted firmly in cheek, as he references Crow, a trickster creation god along the lines of coyote or raven. Every line evokes more than it has space to tell, but tells enough, from youth writing, bad luck and injury, to drunken hope and hopelessness, turning the poem in on itself by the very end. A mixture of wit and education, and the kinds of learning that only the bars of Edmonton's White Avenue can provide, between lines of Duncan, between lines of Mina Loy. Born in St. John, New Brunswick, and raised in various places, including rural Alberta and Carleton Place, he took his BA at Carleton with a class at the University of Ottawa, his MA at the University of New Brunswick, and PhD at the University of Alberta, finally achieving an assistant professor job at York. And it's still my theory that he's hoping eventually to personally influence every university in the country. The biggest reason I chose Andy Weaver to read, apart from the fact that he remains one of my favorite people, was simply the fact that I haven't seen or heard a word of his writing since his first trade collection appeared, despite rumors of a forthcoming selected. I want to know what the hell he's been up to.
Hi, is this okay for the mic? I do not understand. Higher mathematics, the point of shopping lists, the intemperate language of hungry cats. Anything past the 6th pint. The tidal systems, the moon, the 20 8-day calendar of blood. Italian automobiles or their owners, how eugenics breeds a better dog, the patience of the mourning doves as the sparrows harrow the feeder, the asphodel, that greeny flower. How, when I lie in bed a certain way, my whole body is there in your eyes. I understand, I do not understand. The usual lines. Backward glances and glances to the side, a mixture of sun and clouds, soft turbulence at the right or wrong elevations. There was no vote in the great democracies, in the countries we call another world. In a world of grand gestures, how the ants hug the baseboard as they move through my house, the uselessness of the daily necessities. Making an X last night with silver cutlery at the end of the meal, washed down with several bottles of good Riesling while we giggled over the dessert tray. Birds pushed from the nest too soon believe they are flying. I've organized my books by a belief in the alphabet. The summit, mountaineers say, is only halfway. Tuesday, September 11th, 2007. They both cover the letting of blood. What if Michael Jackson really was bad? Who's to blame for this mess? Dude, where's my Caravaggio? How's that carbon-based life form treating you? Where's your parade? What the hell? What the fuck? Did anyone ever find that beef? Are you talking to me? Will you still respect me when the poem's over? Where have all the flowers gone? When can I go into the whorehouse and buy what I need with my good looks? How's that objective correlative treating you? Who do you think you are? When wasn't our concept of historical past a simulacrum? How is a ballot like a scab? Is that my old friend, angst? What happened to our dependence on domestic wheelbarrows? When did we lose our attention to e-tail? I'm a lazy man. Isn't bisexuality a lot of work? Who do I think you are? How's that fifth sense treating you? Where do you think I am? Hey, how's that winnable war going? When did he become Cliché Guevara? What? Who gets out of here alive? Who screams for ice cream? Class order for Adam Dickinson. Abstract ideas, abstractly, in a concrete manner. Ethics is not the reward. The reward is the reward. Each word a shovel. The only way to dig is down. Each hole wholly present in a holy past. A precision not careless of the abundance. Attention to the old rituals, the auguries of weather, the fat agony of squirrels in a delayed winter, a grandfather's watch. Ah, when you consider the radiance, attention is to coin the realm. And this is a longer sequence I've been working on, just called Politics. 1. I too dislike it. There are things that are important beyond all this fiddle. The nattering on of flies, an old man holding his wig against the wind. Has the shipwreck of the singular stayed news? I try to imagine not merely oppose evil. Too much for not enough. siding on the air of caution. What does not change is time, the only element of change. I understand times are tough, but really now, dark days of the soul, that's too much. I can't see the polis for the me's, too often defined for others by others. As surely as Saturday night must trade with Sunday morning, the law of squirrel and acorn, willow branch and wet wind, west wind with north and south with east. 2. Looking for the imaginary gardens, the real toads died in the service of cross-border shopping. It's 2000 and something. How can I run away and join the commune? By all means, let's sit around and redefine our terms. Fibonacci only works if you dismiss the possibility of starting with nothing. Let's take the show on the road. How poor is he? He's so poor he's not even properly alienated from his own labor. Knock, knock. Who's there? When is a soccer stadium like a torture chamber? When is a soccer stadium like a torture chamber? Who? Chile, 1973. That act won't play in the States. I mean, I care as much as the next person, but can't they kill themselves on their own time? I've got to get to work. I need the trains to run on time. 3. The oak tree doesn't care whose lot its leaves fall on. Say what you will about Michael Myers, it's nice to see a man take pride in his work. Don't you think it's suspicious no one's ever seen Karl Marx and Bill Gates in the same place at the same time? I mean, I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Even when the mind isn't minding, the brain is still braining. After the long days of rain, the first robins begin to sing. By all means, let's sing beautiful testimonials to love. Standards of economy dictate that even a girl dead at 5 has reached middle age. He's got money to burn, you. Let's bomb them back to the Flintstone age. Who knows why democracy doesn't work? The earthworm lobby wants to know when last week's rainstorm and every grade 12 biology class will be declared a state of emergency. I take great comfort in knowing that when I die, the multinational corporations will go on without me. The terrible plague, the fifth horseman, pernicious anemia of the mind. Book 'em, Dano. 4. The Dow is up, taxes are down, people are happy. Those are hard answers to question. And what would happen if we put our mouths where our money is? As if I haven't puckered up, closed my eyes, and bobbed my head on a strange man's bill roll. We manufacture consolations here in America, while there are probably not a dozen men fighting in Europe who did not long ago give up every reason for their being there except that nobody knew how to get them away. Whatever I might say, I'm most truly marked by the politics of the expanding waistline. Most of the time, the most political I get is the more homey miracles, the changing of wine into urine, the eating of loaves and fishes to feed this mass. Since war is the health of the state, it's easier to think of some governments as fitness nuts. Not much, just sitting around putting the loser in illusory. I used to dream of being a barking dog. Randolph Bourne died of Spanish flu. 5. After dying in her Toronto apartment, Emma Goldman's body was laid in state in the city's labor lyceum. Salem Land delivered a eulogy. J.S. Wordsworth has become a name few Canadians remember. Noam Chomsky once spoke at my university and we all felt proud. At no time did any teacher teach me about the Winnipeg General Strike, one big union of silence. 6. No, there aren't many anarchist meetings out here in the suburbs. I'd like to say my balls got caught when I hopped over that white picket fence, but really, my embarrassment has always been conformity. I wear deodorant like everyone else. At least, the hippies had their rebellion before settling in and grabbing their unfair share. Student loans, car loans, a mortgage. Because you can see through it, the muzzle doesn't look like a trap. Is that the clap-riddled specter of liberalism I see before me, raising its skirts? Okay, but don't kiss me on the mouth. I mean, what would Phil Oakes say? 7. I believe in the one true God and his prophet Ronald McDonald, WWRMD. There are many ways to measure the distance between the full hand and the empty belly. Why, yes, I would buy wine on the recommendation of an attractive young woman in a top hat and fishnet stockings. There's a reason why it's not called flow-down economics. I know capitalism loves me, but can't we stay just friends? Yea, again I tell you, it is easier for a fat man to waddle through the bend of the golden arches than for a poor man to enter the kingdom of heaven and satiate his desire for breaded, reconstituted chicken parts. 8. The Kantian sublime dwells in the muscles of the human forearm, the open hand curling in its 5 fingers. I title this diary, Sorrows of a Little Quietist. Pass me that banjo. I want to play another verse of Pity the Poor Middle-Class White Man Blues. Yeah, he's got them. The prime rate's going to raise my suburban mortgage blues real bad. Can you dig his I'm so far down, I might have to sell the second boat blues? Everyone loves to hear him play the My pension plan is down slightly blues. Rumor has it he sold his soul at the crossroads for a Menno Porsche and a better tax shelter. And I think I'll finish off with this one. Do I have time for a little bit more? Oh, I have 2 more. Sorry, I lied there.
Good.
6:43 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, but 4 a.m. Atlantic Standard Time, Wednesday, February 10th, 2010. Start at the stopping, a trick of perspective. Passing what? Stop. Glottal stop. Op. Anthropology that breaks. Bray. Bray. O Whiston, tell me again of the suffering masters. Each clutches at his grief like a rare coin. I dream of the solace of good forms. Bray, stupid ass, bray, I will expiate my pettiness pettily. The liminal beloved of philosophers and romantic poets, space between the dictionary entries. Rehearsals and recitations, petty recreations, and could you please turn up that country song? Swallow words and bring them back up again, chew my cud and stare blank, black eyes. This is stupid stuff, best left to Victorians or, better yet, Georgian hags. But at my back I always hear Hawking's mechanical drone tallying the stars. Easier, really, to count the one black space. That there will be no easy epiphanies is itself the easiest epiphany. Not that the words are heavy, but that we are so weak. No place left but the wooden fire, escape. Like it is a bird-boned shoulder in my hands. Like it, like it, like, much worse is the loss of that person's past, of his or her memory, and thus of his or her experience. Death, as far as we can tell, obliterates the emotional intellect in which enormous intensities of response radiate, and in which the fabric of the significance of everything that has been woven into it exists. A rest. A rest. This rest. Dross. 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 And I'll finish with this poem. Presentation. The 5 pigeons arc against the pale blue sky an early March evening while I walk home listening to Amy Mann sing of Pavlov's Bell several days after the first glandular rush of birdsong filled the air, and the cardinal nearly flew directly out of the dogwood and into my frontal lobe without metaphor, almost a month after my Nana died, after I flew several hours into a snowstorm to sit quietly and hug her too many times before I left, both of us knowing. The earth is soft beneath my feet as I walk home to my wife and the giant bur oak tree I love in this springing weather, and cursed throughout the fall while the cats cackled at the squirrels building their drays, and Harper prorogued away Parliament for want of Robert Duncan's stinging retort, which I have spent weeks trying to explain to my students who smile and nod their eyes. And I think of scattering a semicircle of wings across the page. Futility. The wind is soft but crisp. There is a certain slant of light from the lessening sun. The crow watches from its supermarket lamppost. It is not that the pigeons arc, or why, or because the pigeons arc, or even that the pigeons arc. It is the pigeons arc. Thanks very much.